Hello, my name is Clive Mantle and I'm with Chris Gordon on Hellblazer Biz.
Everyone, I have the honour and the company of the privilege of the accomplished actor of stage and screen, both big and small, Clive Mantle. So thank you for joining me, Clive. I really appreciate you.
Very nice to speak to you all. Thank you.
Excellent. So, I mean, like I said, you are a very accomplished actor of stage and screen. I'm not going to list all your IMDb credits or all your theatre credits. We'll be here all night. So, how have you found that the industry has changed over the years? Because I think you've seen a lot of change, haven't you?
You have, if you've knocked around as many theatre green rooms as I have over the last 40 odd years, you do notice some changes, and mainly I think it's to do with technology. Some things have changed for the better. I'm hard pressed to think what they are, but no, they have. Of course, the advent of digital cameras and it's so much easier now to make programs in terms of filming. Equipment is so much smaller and lighter and more manageable. In the old days, it would take 8 sparks electricians to move one lamp. I mean, they were so huge. But now everything's very, very, very portable and lightweight. So there have been some incredible technological advances, obviously. Special effects, makeup, set design, set construction, all those things have advanced, more than we could possibly have imagined. What is absolutely the opposite of that, I think, technologically, is the fact that we have a mobile phone society or an instant email society where things are sort of done very much on the hoof. And certainly 20, 30, 40 years ago, a script was really well thought out, planned, tested well in advance, and now it seems to be a much more last minute, late changes sort of thing. Obviously there's exceptions to that. Theatre's very different still. A script's pretty set if you're doing a play, but you can be certainly filming television. You can be getting rewrites the night before after you've spent 2 or 3 days learning the original way of how it was written. Suddenly on the night before you might get a sheet of rewrites, and that is really painful. Especially the older you get, it's more difficult to learn lines anyway. So if someone starts wasting 3 of your days, your precious line learning days, and then sort of change it all around, that is tough. But you do it because you're being paid. So things have changed. I would say that the camaraderie in a green room is slightly different because people resort to their mobile phones. They're checking, they're talking to their family or friends or whatever, or checking their emails. They're not necessarily talking to the wizened old actors in the corner who maybe can impart some experience or some pearls of wisdom. We can also talk an absolute load of rubbish, but that's part of the joy, is sifting through what old actors and actresses tell you in order to work out what to do for the best yourself. I was glued, in situations when I was with actors, actresses I really respected. I was glued to their every word, hanging on their advice and their, whatever they could offer to help me get, forge ahead in the business. Yeah. I don't get a sense of that anymore. I certainly don't get clusters of young actors and actresses sitting at my feet asking me for advice. Maybe it's just me. Maybe they're asking the good ones for advice and leaving me well alone.
I wouldn't say that, Clive, to be fair, because I think but yeah, no, I know what you mean. But a lot of the people I get on the show actually do say that that's what they value, is talking to the actors who've been in there a long time and working with that. So there is still that around. But yeah, I think you're definitely right with technology, because I admit, I hold my hand up. I will sit and I'll just walk like a zombie on my phone, looking at my phone a lot of the time, and you just forget what's happening around the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of fresh air and exercise and walking up mountains and things like that. So the joy of, I mean, I've been to the Himalayas a couple of times for a month at a time, and the joy of being without a phone and just keeping warm, keeping fed, keeping watered, looking after yourself and looking after the people around you. That's all that you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about car insurance or whether the warranty on your washing machine has run out, or all these things we get bogged down with in our everyday existence just disappear out of the air. And your mind has room to breathe. I love that. I love taking the dog for a walk every morning, and if I can, placing the world in a right on the back burner for a while, and just having fresh air, countryside, and a lovely bit of Wiltshire to look at. Yeah,
that sounds ideal. To be fair, I mean, I keep seeing on Facebook these stupid ads that come out saying, if they paid you 100,000. Oh, I've got an echo here. What's that mine? Yeah, if you paid you £100,000 or something like that, would you stay in this, this cabin for a week with no phone, no internet? And I was like, I'll do it for free. So, I really would. I do enjoy that as well. Yeah.
Well, I don't get those sort of adverts. I wish someone would send me an advert like that.
They're just the scams,
are they?
Yeah, these are little things. Would you do this if they paid you? I mean, I'm the same. I live right by the sea in North Wales, so I walk the dog. Just come back in off about do an hour's bike ride every day, regardless of the weather. So it's very nice to get out there.
Part of our training for Everest was obviously in North Wales and Llanberis and all around that. I love it. Really love it.
It is lovely around there. So, do you prefer? I mean, this is a hard question, I guess. If you've got someone with so much experience, is there a preference between theatre and screen? And they're vastly different art forms, I know, but
they really are. I don't want to shatter or burst any bubbles, but I really just enjoy paying the mortgage. And it may be a terribly unfashionable thing to say, because obviously I entered into this business more than 40 years ago because I loved it, because it was a vocation, because I was drawn to it. I was drawn to the people within it. I mean, I joined the National Youth Theatre on the 4th of August 1974, and suddenly, for the first time in my life, I was amongst the same sort of people. We all laughed at the same sort of things, and were interested in the same sort of things. I fitted in for the first time. And it's largely gone on like that. I mean, there's only probably 5 people I've worked with in the whole of that time who I wouldn't really want to be in the same room as again. Right. And that's pretty amazing, isn't it? All the jobs, all the casts, all the crews, all the producers, directors. There's just 5 idiots that I've worked with that you go, I suppose I could put up with them again, but I'd really rather not. And that's not bad, is it? I'm sure your average office worker or whatever would have met a lot more. I don't know if I'm allowed to say plonkers on this, but they've met a lot more plonkers.
I can vouch for that as an office worker.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay. So it's an incredibly, it's a wondrous profession to be in if it's going well. If you're in one of your little downturns, which they, do you remember at school there used to be things called parabolas? I don't know if they still do that in maths, which are sort of I think I've had about 8 or 10 peaks during my career, and I've certainly had 8 or 10 really low spots where things just you think you're going to be earning good money for ages and ages and ages, and that contract stops, and then you carry on spending money at the rate you were when you were in work, in well-paid work, and it's just like trying to hold sand. It just goes through your fingers.
It does. It's terrible.
And then you start selling the paintings that you bought when you were doing well, and you start selling the house that you bought when you were doing well, and your children and your wife, everything, whatever you can get for them, you know.
On a camel. Yeah.
And then the next day, someone says, "Do you want to go to South Africa for 3 months?" And you go, "Yes." You know, it's a crazy, crazy profession. I really don't know if I could stomach starting out again. I don't know if I could do it all over again, because it in some sense it does beat you up a bit. I mean, I think rejection is harder to take the older you are. You know, new generations of casting directors and producers and directors come up who haven't necessarily seen you do your best work. You know, I did, you know, an awful lot of work in my 30s and 40s and probably early 50s that these people will not be aware of, not be conscious of, you know, so you're just another strange old man, really, tipping up at an interview. Anyway, you know, there's no perfect career. If you ask any actor in the world, however famous, wealthy, whatever, they will always gripe about the jobs that got away, or the bad decisions they made, the jobs they turned down, which led on to great things, and you know, then they went. I mean, it's just a funny business. You cannot really spend too much energy. Of course, things come into your head in the middle of the night. You go, "Why didn't I accept that job?" or "Why did I do that job?" You can't help that. But if you let it eat you up, if you let it dominate your the whole of your being, you'll just eat yourself from the inside. And you know, we're on the planet to live and enjoy each other and enjoy the experience of the planet, not just to forge ahead at any cost and clambering over the dead bodies of our comrades in order to get to play Hamlet in Exeter. You know, I mean, it's just you know, there is more to life. Having said that, when you're standing on stage at curtain call, if you are playing Hamlet in Exeter and it's gone well and you're doing it well, there's no better feeling. So if you just turn away from the dead bodies of all the other actors you climbed over in order to get the part, you should have a good curtain call. But then you've got to live with yourself.
Oh yes. The last time I really did theatre was when I was doing my A-levels, and we did school musicals, and that was my only. And I did also in university. I did Macbeth. Well, I wasn't actually Macbeth in university. I was playing about 7 different characters in that during the play, because we're quite short-staffed when it came to actors. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that was I've never ever forgotten the experience of coming on that curtain call, or coming on and listening as Drake the Butler and hearing the reception, because it was done well. I'll brag, you know, it was done well, and the reception of coming on every night and just hearing people like and you know, and clapping and applause. There is no better feeling.
It's that is a byproduct of acting, which is very, very pleasing and very gratifying, and you know, it's nice being told that you've entertained people and done something well. What's probably even more gratifying is when you're in the middle of a play. I mean, I can quote stuff like Of Mice and Men, which I've done many times, but you can feel the effect that you're having on people as they're watching the play. You know, you manipulate their emotions as they're sat there. You can make them cry. You can make them laugh. You can make them, and that is far more extraordinary to be able to do that than stand there and take the applause at the end. The applause at the end is a sort of a formality. It's all very pleasant, but actually the magic of controlling an audience, you know, and literally like a wonderful gaggle of sheep, you know, steer them in one direction or another. I got to play Tommy Cooper on stage, and to be able to deliver his wonderful comedy genius, the scripts, his jokes, and listen to those waves of laughter, of affection, of love. Not necessarily certainly, you know, for Tommy, you know, it wasn't. I was just a cipher for that.
Yeah.
And to stand there and almost have your hair blown back, with the noise of the laughter, that's an amazing feeling. But it's not always like that. Sometimes you're in a room above a pub theatre with 3 people in the audience doing an experimental play, which may be good, may not be. The thing about actors is that they do enter into every job thinking, right, this is the one. I'm going to give it all my energy. I'm going to give it all my commitment. And I really, really, fingers crossed, hope there's good things. And if you don't enter into a job without thinking that, then, there's absolutely no hope for the job or you in that job, I don't think. You've got to enter into everything with gusto and with intelligence and with energy, commitment, and bon or me. Who wants to be around people who aren't necessarily that much fun to be around? Surely you want to work with people who make the day brighter and happier. One would hope anyway.
Very true. And speaking about making the day brighter and happier, I mean, obviously Tommy Cooper is an amazing comedian. He really was absolutely amazing. But you've worked with several, I noticed, of our finest comedians. I'm not going to name Jasper Carrott. I mean, these are ones I grew up with: Jasper Carrott, Lenny Henry, Rik Mayall, Brian Laurie, Dawn French, Vic Reeves, Punton Dennis. What was your funniest memory working with those guys?
Oh, well, with Rik Mayall and Ade Edmondson, I met my wife on the episode of Bottom that we did all those years ago. Bottom Smells was the name of the episode. The thing I remember about Rik, I mean, I was just playing a thug in the episode, and neither Rik or Ade were terribly interested in me. They seemed to be far more interested in the ladies in the cast. So I think they got around to talking to me and asking me about myself on about the 4th or 5th day, I think. God, that happens. I loved watching Richard Wilson in One Foot in the Grave. I loved watching the week building up to the studio record. That was fantastic. But I think possibly of all the comedy, Reeves and Mortimer, all Fry and Laurie, I mean, I have done a lot. The greatest experience was Vicar of Dibley with Dawn
French,
and the collection of unbelievable characters. I mean, unbelievable in the nicest sense, not in the fact that they're unbelievable. They are the most wonderful collection of British character actors ever assembled, I think. And what people don't know is that they're even stranger and more wonderful off screen than they are on. Dawn is the most all-encompassing. Mother hen sounds like a really awful thing to say. I don't mean it like that, but she's a wonderful maternal, arms round everybody, all-inclusive, brilliant head of a show. A lot of comedies you work on, the star is someone who you avoid a little bit, especially if you get a laugh at the read-through on one of your lines. You sort of tend to find that line might have disappeared or suddenly be in the star's pocket in the future. But no, I mean that's a gross misrepresentation, but has happened. Dawn, on the other hand, is sensible enough to know that the funnier the show is, the better it reflects on her and all around her. So she's more than happy for other people to have laughs. She will suggest things for other people. She also creates an atmosphere where you are comfortable enough to suggest things, and you're only there for a week, a week at a time on those episodes. And raising your voice amongst some pretty big hitters there, that takes a bit of nerve, but she gives you the confidence to say, what do you think about that? And you go, offer something up, and if it's good enough, it'll get included, which is a magnificent way. That's why it's good. That's why it's really good, and that's why it stands the test of time. Yeah, so I would say comedy-wise, Vicar Dibley was a standout moment. But I love my radio comedy, really. I really love that with a great mate of mine, Nick Wilton. We did years and years of live radio comedy. Can you believe that? On a Saturday night. Live. And we did it on telly as well. It wasn't very good on telly, but you certainly know you've lived when you've done live television and radio.
Oh, I can imagine. I'm bringing you on. The first time I got to know you, in fairness, Clive, on TV, was when I was younger, was Robin of Sherwood, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the big ones. There's you and Little John. You actually played Little John and you've been Big John, which we'll go into later.
I've been Little John and Great John. Yeah,
Great John, sorry, not Big John. Yeah,
well, that's all right.
Same sort of thing.
I answer to any John. Medium John. I'm now extremely old John.
I did talk to Phil Rose a couple of years ago. Good old Friar Tuck. And obviously, Robin of Sherwood was one of my all-time favourites growing up. What kind of memories do you have from those days? I know you recently visited the old location with Michael, didn't you?
Yeah, well, Michael came to stay about a month ago. That was lovely. We're all still in contact. We all still, Jason Connery texted me today about something. Ray was on WhatsApp the other day. Mark Ryan, you can't keep him off social media. He's
I'm friends with him on Facebook somewhere along the way.
Yeah, he's fantastic. So you know all that. It was the closest cast I've ever been involved with. We had 3 glorious years, and the majority of the summers really, sat in beautiful woodland settings in the glorious West Country, Wiltshire, Somerset, over the border into Wales some of the time, and then Alnwick and Bamburgh castles up north. I mean, we used to film next to any old bit of castle wall, really. Quick, there's a castle wall, let's do an episode here. But no, it was a bit more scientific than that. They found our main village location at a place called Nettleton in Wiltshire by helicopter, because they had to film where there was no particular fir trees, which weren't in the country in the 12th century, 12th and 13th century. So, so they found the location by helicopter, and, so it was really tucked away. It was lovely, gorgeous place. And I don't live too far away from it now, so I sort of quite often find myself wandering around the old haunts. But we were all young, free and single. Most of us were single, and we were being extremely well paid. And I think ourselves and a show called Alvida St. Pep, we were the sort of highest paid young actors in the country at the time.
Wow.
Amazing.
I've still got,
I think I was the only one who had a deposit. I was the only one who had a deposit left to buy a flat at the end of the 3 years, because what we'd earned we'd spent mostly. We enjoyed ourselves. I think for in your life you have to do that once. And that was certainly our time in the sunshine. If only we would have kept going, we'd have loved to do another couple of years on it. I think it would have been brilliant. But
it would have been.
These things come to an end. Our wonderful old producer Paul Knight died this year, and it was great. Very sad, but it was beautifully set up by Paul and Richard Carpenter, who wrote the majority of the scripts. Who's known for Catweasel and
another classic.
Wonderful writer, man of great imagination. And he didn't write too many scripts to start with. I mean, I think probably the first 2, 3 or 4 were fairly set. But then he used to just come down and sit in the bar with us of an evening, or be on set with us on the lunch bus or whatever it was, and just listen to the way that we bantered and talked to each other, and our sort of hierarchy and our just the way we interacted. And he used that really well in sort of getting a group feel. And fantastic, really clever television, I think, and beautifully made.
Oh yeah, very, very brilliantly made. So I absolutely loved it. I say I've got the DVD box sets on my shelf as well to carry. I have to keep trying to get my son into them. He's 13 and he still likes his YouTube at the moment. So I'm like,
YouTube is the thing. My son is he's 15. He has his fair dose of YouTube watching, but he likes his fresh air as well. So a better balance there.
It is definitely. I've actually got Dominic Stark sent one in about Robin Hood, and he said, "How was the change of the gang leader in Robin of Sherwood for yourself?" Because he hears a lot from producers and fans, and obviously with the dynamic shift within the cast, the bonding fight between you and Jason Connery is one of the show's highlights to him.
Well, that's lovely. We didn't make it easy for Jason at all. I mean, Freddie had been such a mate and such a glorious leader. We were stunned and very, very upset when he went. And we were such a tight band. The Merry Men were incredibly tight. And, for someone to come in and sort of be our governor was a really big ask. And so, we didn't give him an easy time. We put him through it. And I think I was the last one to fall under Jason's spell. I sort of sat back and said, all right, then, come on, show us. And one by one, he won us over and won us over well and truly. He's an absolute diamond of a man. I mean, you cannot, for all the sons and daughters of the rich and famous that I've ever met, he is the most balanced, most level-headed, the most down-to-earth, the most practical, the most sensible, and great fun to boot. All qualities are, no doubt instilled in him by Big Sean. So, I'm not saying we made it easy for him, and we made him go through a sort of rite of passage, which almost the character did in the story. So I mean, it did mirror what was happening in the script. So that was by chance, but that we were so tight that someone coming in would really had to earn our respect, and he did.
Excellent. I did try to get both of those on my show at one point, Michael and Jason, but I don't think I managed to get through to them. So never mind.
Oh, well,
I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying. Excellent. That's great. And obviously, I'm not going to go say through everything that you've done, but I know Casualty and Holby. My wife's her favourite, and to be honest, I've been addicted to Holby myself. I can't deny it. It's just a fascinating show. One thing I like that I believe when you got very early on in your role, literally a couple of days after being cast, there was a funny story that I'd read about what you did.
Well, no, I mean, I lived near Bath then, and I just got the job, on the whatever it was, the Monday morning. And in Bath, I was just standing in a chemist on the Wednesday morning, minding my own business, waiting in the queue. And the bloke in front of me collapsed on the floor, literally went down like a sack of spuds on the floor. Yeah. And I took because half your brain's already working. I'm a doctor, you haven't even seen the script yet. So I took 2 steps towards him thinking I could help. Right. And I went, I had absolutely no idea what to do. And luckily there was a first aider in the chemist who took over. I was so embarrassed that I didn't know what almost one end of a human being from another, that I made the cast as soon as I sort of could exercise some authority. I made the cast go on this thing called the French City Lifesaver, right, which was a course which enables you to keep people going till the ambulance get there. Okay, the vital thing to circulate oxygen and blood around the body until paramedics get there with the life-saving drugs. Yeah. And you can really make a hell of a lot of difference if you know the ABC of resuscitation.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And should be taught in schools, should be the first lesson every Monday morning Do we all remember our ABCs? Approach, assess, assist, airway, breathing, look, listen, feel, circulation, 2:15, 2:15. That's all you have to know. I mean, all those things encompass a little action and stuff like that. But, how long does it take to learn that? And it's slightly more important than, listing the Plantagenet kings in order. But, I mean, I do love the Plantagenet kings, and I think they're important as well. But I think learning how to keep a human being alive is just as important as the Plantagenet.
I do agree. I know I was an IT manager at Welsh Ambulance Service, and they'd had a first responder scheme where they did that. They go out and have little groups of people like you and me who would just be able to learn and do that exact thing what you got everyone to learn as well. It's just before the paramedics get there, is just to have that first response just to help them alive while they wait.
Absolutely, even if it's just getting them in the recovery position or whatever, or knowing not to move them if it's a neck injury or something like that. There's so many wonderful things you can learn very, very quickly. So I took two steps towards this poor chap, and thank goodness I wasn't able to treat him because I didn't know what on earth I was doing. Subsequently, as soon as anyone falls over anywhere, I'm running towards them, thinking that I'm still Mike Barrett and I can sort them out.
Brilliant. What was your favourite episode out of them all, out of Casualty and Holby?
Very early on in Casualty, on the in the end of my first series, which I think was series 7. I can't remember. I'm going back some years now. There was an amazing episode called Boiling Point, where the hospital burnt down. 2 rival gangs were attacking each other, and directed by a very good TV director, Michael Morris. And he wouldn't have tackled this if he didn't think we were all capable of it. But there were massive tracking shots in this episode with the hospital burning. So there were flame effects, there were stunts, there was smoke, there was Steadicam cameras going through corridors following the action. Wow. A bit of fighting there, a bit of set collapsing there, flame bursting in here, trolley going through there. I mean, the choreography of this, I think one of the shots was 2.5 minutes. I can't remember now. I'm probably lying, but it felt like it was 2 or 3 minutes long, weaving in and out of everything. And it all ended, I'd been in it a couple of times early on in the scene or whatever, and it all ended with me under the, because all the lights in the hospital had gone down, under sort of torchlight, making an incision into a prosthetic piece, of which they only had 2. So we had to get it right. We really had to get it right. And, that again concentrates the mind. And I think having done live television and live radio really focuses you and helps you survive in those moments. Yeah, because it's wonderful, but when you see it on the television, or when we saw it at the time, it was just magnificent. 17 million people watched that episode on the day. That's not with viewing figures and people tape and overnight figures and people on catch up and things like that. 17 million people were there in front of the television on that Saturday night watching that episode. And that's amazing. A third of the country, virtually. Slightly less than a third of the country, but still. Yeah. I mean,
you just don't get those numbers anymore now. It's just it's phenomenal. It really is. I mean, would you like to return as Mike Barrett as well at some point? I know you did come back on the 30th anniversary, didn't you?
I just briefly. A couple of years ago, I put a storyline into them because I write as well, and I put a storyline into them about Mike Barrett. Coming back to Holby to end his days and being treated by Charlie and sort of catching up with Charlie, but they didn't think the idea was any good. No one ever got back to me, so stuff them. You'll use the idea somewhere else.
Fair enough. And I say we've gone from Little John, you've gone to Great John Umber as well. Another phenomenon. These are the great. Robin of Sherwood, absolute classic, and it's a classic known everywhere. Holby, Casualty, again, massive big shows, and these are some of the peaks, I think, as you said, and some of these, and then you come to a show like Game of Thrones, global phenomenon. What was it like to be part of that?
whatever happened to Game of Thrones? That must have been one of my low points, and no one's ever heard of it.
I know, yeah. It's one of these tiny little things that just fizzled
Yeah.
after a pilot episode.
Yeah. Well, what is interesting is that when we were filming, 'cause I was in the first series, episodes 8, 9, and 10, which are obviously the best. None of us knew the worldwide phenomenon it was going to be. I mean, you like I said earlier, you enter into all these things with the best possible intentions, the best. Yeah, okay, you believe in this, we'll believe in this. Let's give it a real good crack, it wasn't great fun to work on, only because it was minus 22 most of the time I was in Belfast. I was not long back from Everest, and that was minus 15. And Belfast, it was colder on Titanic Dock than it was in the foothills in the Himalaya, which took some getting my head around. But no, it was great. But my particular storyline, because we didn't really meet the other sort of 6 things vying for the throne. So, Michelle Fairley, Ron Donaghy, Alfie Allen, Richard Madden, we were a pretty tight team by the end there. And they were very, very lovely, welcoming people. Because most of them had been in the pilot, I think, as well. So, they knew the setup by the time I got there, and I just sort of jumped on board. I was meant to do stuff in series 2 and 3, but they wouldn't tell me the dates that they needed me, and I had a year's work lined up doing a lovely little series I used to do called White Van Man, which I absolutely loved. BBC 3 series, and a very long tour of Tommy Cooper on stage. So they wouldn't tell me the dates, so I couldn't just hold myself available for a year just for them. So sadly I had to end my Game of Thrones jaunt early. But I mean, it's an amazing series. It
really was.
Every single dollar spent is up there on screen, and will be forever. I mean, it's great stuff.
Definitely. Who's your favourite character besides your own, obviously?
I love Peter Dinklage. I really love.
I was about to say he was mine as well. Too.
So consistent. There were very, very few, if any, weak links. I can't really. I mean, nothing really stands out to me. I loved because I had so many old mates in it. I loved the fact they were all, helping pay their mortgage for a bit, and it just fantastic. There were 300 speaking parts in the first 10 episodes. I mean, that's unheard of.
Phenomenal.
I know, it's absolutely incredible. So, they were all good, weren't they? But I thought Charlie Dance was very good.
Yeah, he was.
But it's they were all good. I can't even pick out.
No, I've got to say, Peter Dinklage, I agree with, because I thought Tyrion, he was absolutely sublime. Yeah. And then I think the pairing of him with Jerome Flynn as Bronn, they had me cracking up.
Jerome was stunning, absolutely stunning, and so self-assured in that performance. Glorious stuff.
Very nice guy. He was on the show a couple of years ago as well. He's a really nice chap too, isn't he?
He's played Tommy Cooper as well. So
has he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that, you see, just throw it in. Yeah. Excellent. I mean, and bring it on. I mean, again, if Alien 3, we've had all that around there, and experiences with all those things. But it's not just the acting that you're accomplished with. I'm going to move on because you are an award-winning author.
Yes, that sounds good, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
I was very lucky to get the People's Book Prize for my first book, which I handily have here. That was the Treasure at the Top of the World, I was talking about Everest earlier on, and because you getting rid of all that rubbish from your head on the way out from Everest, I suddenly had room, and I had a flash of boy has map of the world on his wall, through which he could disappear to any country at any time in history.
Yeah.
And that was all I had. I thought, oh, that's a good hook. I'll be able to do something with that, when I get time. And for years and years and years, I never had time to sit down and write at all, really. I mean, I was charging from one job to another.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I found myself on a wonderful job in South Africa, where I was, for 3 or 4 months, I was there in Cape Town in a beautiful apartment. And I was only filming about 1 day a week. And they couldn't fly you backwards and forwards from South Africa all the time. So, you just had to slum it in your apartment in Cape Town, overlooking Table Mountain out of the kitchen and the harbour out of the lounge. I mean, just glorious. But I did have finally time to sit down and write. And a long old process, followed. But years later, it was published, Treasure at the Top of the World. And so this character, Freddie Malone, disappears off through anywhere in history I want to send him. And he ended up with King Tutankhamun in A Jewel in the Sands of Time. And today I've just received my copy of book 3, which is in the City of Fortune and Flames. And that's Great Plague, Great Fire of London, and slavery and subjects like that. Believe it or not, I mean, I was writing this in the 2 years before the events that have unfolded this year, and the similarities between some of the things that happened in the plague and that are happening now are uncanny. And certainly with Black Lives Matter and things like that, with the slave trade in Britain. 2 very important characters in book 3, Mingo and Jack, were these black slaves of Sir William Batten and Sir William Penn, who lived either side of Samuel Pepys in Seething Lane in London. And I was just fascinated by these characters and did a lot of research about them. And they become, part of Freddie's adventure, and a very important part. And so it's lovely to explore those themes for a young audience. It's history by stealth in a sense, because the adventure is a palpable adventure, but it's set absolutely accurately within a historical context. So, I tell the plague as it happened, and the fire as it happened, and slavery as it happened. All those elements I have to tie together in an adventure, and so boys and girls are absorbing historical facts and figures and stuff like that, but without really knowing it, because hopefully they're caught up in the adventure. So it's history by stealth.
It just sounds really, really good, to be honest. And there are three novels out there now, so I will be getting them.
Yeah,
it sounds really. Treasure at the Top of the World was the first one, wasn't it? That's the one.
That's Nepal, and that's Mallory and Irving, and Yaks and Yetis, and there's a great swathe of baddies who Freddie and Connor and Ruby have to deal with every time. And book 2's King Tutankhamun and all the plots on his life, and Freddie becomes his best mate. And Freddie can't change the course of history, but he can intercept on a local level. So if there's a plot on Tutankhamun's life, of which there were many, Freddie can point them out, and he can be instrumental. He can save lives on a local level. He can pull a little girl out of the way of stampeding yaks. Freddie and his gang can help people in the Great Fire and the Great Plague, stuff like that. But they're not going to change the course of history.
Excellent. That sounds really, really good. And I know, so the first 2 are available already. You can get them on Amazon and many bookshops like that. And obviously the third one comes out when it's October the 10th.
I think it's a week today, October the 14th, is it? But I mean, they can be pre-ordered.
You can get them already.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But no, I mean, I hope people enjoy them. I mean, I love writing them. It's especially as the world as it is at the moment, it's an absolute joy on the days I have set aside for writing to disappear upstairs to my study here and disappear from the world as we know it at the moment, and go into my own world, go into my own bit of history and reimagine it for people. Yeah, it's great.
Excellent. Brilliant. And I'm going to ask you one signature question now, Clive, before I finish. This is my own one. This is it's a personality. I had this because I had a chap called Mike Quinn who's worked with Jim Henson for 30 odd years, and a question was sent to him, and it was a really interesting one. So, if you could have a Muppet made for your own personality and your own character, or if there's one out there that you might think, what Muppet would you have?
Well, I'm tempted to say Animal. You know, the drummer. I'm probably changing more into Waldorf and Stadler. Is it with the two old boys in the box? I'm probably more like them now. I think in my youth I was like Animal on the drums there, but I'm now a complete combination of the two old boys up in the box, complaining about everything and saying how it wasn't as good as when they were young. I think that's probably me now.
Okay, fair enough. It's good one. And before I stop recording, is there anything you'd like to say to people who are watching or listening?
No, just how fantastic. We really do appreciate your support when you like the series we do. Like the shows we do, and get in contact with us, where be it, or just an email, whatever it is, or a letter for an autograph or a picture. Always include a stamped address envelope, it's very, very flattering. The amount of wonderful bricklayers and dentists and geography teachers out there who don't get letters of appreciation despite being absolutely wonderful at what they do. We are in this bizarre and very, very lucky job where we get adulation on the spot if you're standing in a theatre. And we get, more than our fair share of, praise via your wonderful selves at conventions, at signings, by sending a request for an autograph. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful, wonderful way of keeping in touch with your audience and not outgrowing your audience or getting above your audience. So I'm always very conscious of that. And very, very happy to speak to you on occasions like this to say thank you for watching us, and thank you for keeping us on the television, and thank you in advance for writing to television companies saying we haven't seen Clive Mantle on the television for a bit. It's about time he played a 90-year-old warlord who comes back and eats the world, something like that. He eats as many cream buns as he can in an episode. That would be good. I'd like that.